Hello, my name's Ian Morris and I'm the Willard Professor of Classics and Professor of History and Archaeology at Stanford University. And I'm also the author of a new book, Why the West Rules for Now, The Patterns of History and What They Reveal About the Future. In Why the West Rules for Now, I try to explain why it is that a small group of nations around the shores of the North Atlantic Ocean have come to dominate the world in the last 200 years in a way that's never been seen before in history. If we want to understand why the West rules for now, it's vital that we learn how to measure social development and compare it across the world over time. In trying to do that, I took as my inspiration the United Nations Human Development Index, which is a system the UN developed to measure how different states perform at allowing their citizens to realise their innate human potential. Now, social development is a rather different thing from human development, but like the United Nations, I think we can come up with a number of traits which allow us to measure development. For social development, we need to measure the ability of societies to capture energy. We need to measure their ability to organise themselves. We need to measure their ability to manage information, their technologies for information gathering. And we also need to measure their capacity for making war. Once we can do these four things, I believe, we're able to measure social development over time, and then we've taken the first big step toward understanding why the West rules for now. In Why the West Rules for Now, I suggest that the main answer to the question is in fact geography. Geography has determined why the West has come to dominate the planet. But geography is a very complicated force. Geography determines how quickly social development increases in different parts of the world, but the rate of development of societies also determines what geography means. One of the biggest changes we've seen in the world in the last 50 years has been the rise to power and wealth of the nations of East Asia, of Japan and most recently of China. Now, the great lesson that we're able to draw from history is that nothing lasts forever. Western dominance, like the dominance of all regions of the world in the past, is something that has a time limit on it. The same forces of change that have undermined dominance of other parts of the world in previous periods are going to undermine Western dominance too. 150 years ago, Britain dominated the world, but geography undermined that. As industry spread to Germany and particularly to North America, new advantages were discovered in these places that allowed their economies to overtake the British. As the same geographical forces have spread industry all over the world in the 20th century, Japan and now China have also discovered advantages in their geography, which are allowing them to overtake the United States. The process of change is speeding up, going ever faster. 100 years from now, the one thing we can be quite sure of is that the West will no longer dominate the planet. But what we can probably also be sure of is that dominating the planet will mean something very different in the 22nd century from what it means in the 21st.